Imagine being in a classroom where you have thoughts, ideas, questions, and answers, but the tool that you use to communicate those thoughts is taken away or it's turned down. For many students who rely on AAC devices, this can become a reality in the classroom and sometimes at home too. Today, I want to talk about why educators should encourage students to use technology when it helps them learn and navigate the world, and why students who use AAC should never have their communication system taken away or turned down simply because it's a device, or it might be perceived as a distraction to themselves or to others. First, technology can remove barriers to education. Students do not all learn or communicate or demonstrate their knowledge in the same way. Some students need technology to access their schoolwork independently. A computer can provide tools for writing, reading, speech to text, text to speech, organization, and communication. For some students, these tools are not just convenient, they are necessary. They are vital to their learning and navigating the world around them. Educators should not automatically look at a computer or a tablet and think that student's distracted. Instead, they should ask, what is this technology allowing the student to do? How is it making the world more accessible to them? If a student is using a computer to complete an assignment, communicate, read, write, or access an accommodation, taking that technology away may actually prevent that student from learning. This is especially important when we talk about AAC. AAC stands for Argumentative and Alternative Communication. It also includes communication boards, pictures, gestures, sign language, typing, communication apps, and speech generating devices. For some students, AAC supplements their speech. For others, it may be their primary way of communicating. AAC is not a toy. It is not a toy. It is not simply screen time. It is not something a student should lose because a teacher thinks they are using their device too much or they have too much screen time, or they might think that it's a distraction. For some students, AAC is their voice. The American Speech Language Hearing Association, or ASHA, states that people who use AAC should always have access to their communication tools or devices. It also explains that concerns about screen time do not apply when the screen is being used as part of an AAC system. And honestly, this should not be too difficult to understand. All students should be able to use their voice as they please, no matter what that looks like for them. For one student, their voice might come directly from their mouth. For another student, it may come from a speech generating device. For another, it might be typing. For another, it might be sign language, pictures, gestures, or a communication board. The method may be different, but the purpose is the same: communication. If a student who speaks was told, "You're talking too much, so you cannot use your voice for the rest of class," most people would immediately recognize this as wrong. Or if you just put your hand over their mouth, like, you can't do that. Where was I? So why should it be different for a student who uses a voice that comes from a device? Putting your hand over a speaking student's mouth might be the same as taking away their device. Turning it down a student's AAC device because it's too loud or taking it away because they are playing with it can prevent that student from communicating. They might need to say that they are confused or they need help, or they might want to answer a question. They might want to talk to a friend. They might need to tell somebody that they're uncomfortable or they're sick or they're upset or they're scared. We cannot know when a student will need to communicate. This is why access to communication needs to be constant and consistent. Communication is not a reward. It is not a privilege. And students' voice should never be used as a punishment. Taking away that device should never be used as a punishment for them. Educators can absolutely have rules and expectations surrounding technology. Students can be taught how to use devices appropriately. Teachers can work with students and their support teams to establish expectations for computers and tablets. But there is a major difference between managing technology and restricting communication. A teacher can say, please choose your game because you are working on an assignment. A teacher should not say, you can't use your AAC because you're talking too much. One teaches appropriate technology use. The other takes away a student's ability to communicate. Educators should also remember that AAC is important for academic participation. Students use communication to answer questions, participate in discussions, ask for clarification, demonstrate knowledge, interact socially, and build relationships. If we expect students to participate in school, then we need to make sure they have the tools necessary to participate. That includes communication systems. Ultimately, this comes down to inclusion and respect. Students should not have to earn the right to communicate. They should not have to prove that they deserve their device. They should not have to choose between following classroom rules and having their voice, access to their voice. Each and every student deserves the ability to communicate. Every student deserves to be heard, and every student should be able to use their voice in whatever form that their voice takes. Whether that voice is spoken, typed, signed, selected on a screen, produced by a speech-generated device, or communicated through pictures, it is still a voice. So the next time an educator sees a student using an AAC device, instead of immediately asking, how do I get this student off their device, we should ask, what is this device allowing the student to do? This can include an iPad or a Chromebook as well. What accommodation is this giving? How is this making the world more accessible to our students? Technology is not always a distraction from education. Sometimes technology is what makes education accessible. And for a student who uses AAC, that device is not just technology. It is their voice. And no student should have their voice taken away by anybody.